Alright, so just some Davidian tendencies. An important thing to remember throughout this presentation is that the Davidians had a different view on life and death than most people in America. They had always believed that they would be attacked by people outside of the cult, and thus they had started stockpiling weapons. The Davidians had fiercely believed that death was simply the beginning of a better afterlife, and these beliefs caused great oversight among federal agents when they raided the compound. An example of this tendency is the way the Davidian parents refused to leave and protect their children even after the compound was gassed. So now onto the Branch Davidians. They were a religious cult founded in 1959 by Benjamin Roden, and it based its views off of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was founded by Bulgarian immigrant Victor Hotef in the 1930s. Hotef called for the reform of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but was rejected by Adventist leaders. In 1935, Hotef and his followers decided to settle near Waco, Texas, and named his group the Davidians. The Davidians then prepared for the Second Coming. Hotef died in 1955, but the group that was loyal to Hotef continued as the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. And right there's their little symbol or flag, I guess you could call it. Alright, so Branch Davidians continued. After Victor died, his wife Florence Hotef led this new group that was loyal to Victor. Florence believed there was an imminent apocalypse on the way, but this was not found in any of Victor's original writings, although Florence still convinced hundreds of followers to relocate the Mount Carmel Center near Waco in 1959. They moved here so they could fulfill Ezekiel 9, which is a chapter in the Old Testament that contains God's judgments on idolaters. The anticipated apocalypse did not occur, and people were not happy. Okay, another Branch Davidians continued slide. Benjamin Roden, the religious leader, formed another group called the Branch Davidians and attempted to take over Mount Carmel. They succeeded and took over the compound. The compound was somewhat quiet for a couple years with no big events happening in the compound or involving the group. But then, Ben Roden died in 1978, and the group was then led by his wife, Lois Roden, until she died in 1986. The group was then led by Ben and Lois's son, George Roden. Less than a year later, George was overthrown by Vernon Howe after he died in a gunfight. Howe's court case ended in a mistrial, and 7 others were acquitted. Howe then changed his name to David Koresh and took control. And here's just a great picture of Vernon Howe, or now David Koresh. Alright, so now onto the beliefs of the Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians were a religious cult with beliefs that were different from other Christian denominations. However, there were some similarities. The sect believed in the imminent second coming of Christ, which goes hand in hand with their belief of an imminent apocalypse. The word Davidian is in reference to their belief in the restoration of the kingdom of David. David Koresh claimed to be the second coming of Christ, and when he took control of the cult, people worshiped him as so.
The Branch Davidian group. The Branch Davidians are an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
The thing that made them different was they had a doomsday prophecy. They believed that there would be an end of the world, and that when that time came, they were going to die.
Slowly he became their leader, and then eventually raised himself up to the level of a prophet.
One of the things about being a Branch Davidian, and especially under David Koresh, was you're supposed to separate yourself from the world. The world is the sins, the flesh, the desires of the world, and you're supposed to be spiritual.
There was no running water, no heat, no electricity of any kind. We had to go to Bible study 3 times a day.
Women had to wear long blouses covering their rear ends, and no makeup ever, no jewelry.
Why did you come here?
Because I heard there was something here that I wanted to listen to.
David can explain this Bible better than anyone that I've ever met.
I'm here because of the truth.
What is the truth?
Well, you have to find out yourself.
So Margarita Vega was a socialite from Hong Kong.
Before they joined the Branch Davidians, these people had a variety of lives. They came from all walks of life.
My mom, she was very glamorous. Always had maids and going out and led the high life, I guess. And then after she joined with Vernon, then she just sort of just let go.
Is he the Son of God?
I hope he is.
I could see that there was a struggle. She wanted to believe, but I knew that she wasn't really sure.
He was polarizing because what he's doing is so radical. He truly believed he had a mission from God.
He told them where to sleep, who to sleep with, what to work, what not to do. He's the Lord of the Manor in every sense of the word.
He had absolute authority over the air they breathed, over literally the food that they ate every day.
He taught that we should not eat any dairy products. And his reasoning was, well, dairy products are made from milk, which is baby food. Milk is what you drink when you're a baby, and we're adults now.
You could have apples and bananas, but not bananas and oranges together. There was a lot of food combining rules. You couldn't eat fruit and vegetables together.
No sugar at all, no processed flour.
When the winter came, in the very beginning, we would have pots of onion soup, no cheese in it, just onion soup.
My wife got into trouble once for telling someone it was okay to eat cheese, and she was put out of the camp.
So it was almost like he was sitting around thinking of like really wacky ways to manipulate people. But the idea was to test people to see if they really believed and would really obey when the time came.
You will overcome through my power. You are mine.
We knew it was a cult. We would joke about it all the time, like, yep, we're cult members. But then again, David would always talk about, well, Christianity is a cult. If you look back,
Okay, so now we're going to be talking about how the stage was set for the Waco Siege. Alright, so the not so peaceful transfer of power. The leadership carousel of the Branch Davidians was constantly spinning. After Venton's leader Victor Hotep died, Ben Roden takes control of this compound near Waco, Texas, and forms the Branch Davidians. When Ben dies, his wife Rose takes control of the cult. Upon her death, a new rival of the compound, Vernon Howe, and Rose's son, George Roden, clashed for power. George is killed in a gunfight, and after several acquittals and a mistrial in the courts, Vernon Howe takes control. Howe changes his name to David Koresh upon assuming power. Alright, so now we're going to talk about David Koresh. Like I said before, he was born Vernon Wayne Howe, and he changed his name to David Koresh so that he would be professing himself to be the spiritual descendant of King David, a messianic figure carrying out a divinely commissioned errand. Claimed to be the final prophet of the Branch Davidians, he was allegedly involved in multiple instances of child abuse and sexual abuse, and he supposedly had more than 12 children with different wives, and these children were to serve as the ruling leaders over the millennium after the return of Christ.
I know where I came from. I come from God. I didn't come from monkey. I came from God through Adam through a long lineage of man. Did Jesus look like the Son of God? No one thought so, except a few people in his day.
David Koresh was a monster. He was a highly unstable, self-proclaimed Messiah who used the Bible and used scriptures as a weapon.
It's war. These governments of this world are coming to an end.
He always said that they would come for us, and we were going to defend ourselves, and we were all going to die.
He was an embodiment of evil.
He was the complete, absolute dictator of every facet of everyone's life.
I'm learning the truth.
Do you think he's the Son of God?
Yeah.
He had uncommonly powerful capacities to manipulate people and instantaneously decay souls.
When I first met David Koresh in summer of '81, he had a car that he was driving, and he said the Lord gave it to him. He was a very disheveled kind of guy. He was poor, obviously. He didn't have a job, or at least a regular job. He seemed lost, looking for something, and he was kind of a drifter.
He had been born Vernon Howell.
His mother was very young when he was born, 15.
He had a very troublesome childhood. His mother had been married 3 times. He wasn't particularly the best student in school. He had some learning disabilities.
He was very cute, lovable little boy, very inquisitive, a doer. He learned by doing things, tearing motors apart. First truck I bought him, first thing he did was tear the motor out. And that's the way he did the Bible. He'd search through and dissect it like he did a motor or whatever. But
by the age of 14, he had memorized the New Testament. And by the age of approximately 18, he had the Old Testament memorized.
His mastery of the Bible stunned everyone.
He claimed that when he was a child, God had spoken to him and said, "You're the chosen one. You are my Messiah."
I think back then God was working on David to prepare him for the work he had for him later on.
Bonnie was a very, very charming woman. She's very likable. She took some blame for the way that he was brought up and the fact that she was in a couple of abusive relationships. But I think that somewhere inside of her, she was proud of the fact that he made something of himself. Even if it was infamous, he made something out of himself.
Back in the 70s, that's when all the guys wanted to be rock stars. Yeah, I thought he had ability, I really did. But as he got older, he wanted not to be a rock star, but to do the kind of music that would bring him to Christ.
This is the Psalms 45 guitar. A lot of people think it's kind of sensual, but no more sensual than the Song of Solomon.
At this point in his life, he's believing that God is speaking to him, as it led to him finding the Branch Davidian group. The Branch Davidian.
All right, and the second part is for Alex, so thanks for tuning in.